Good evening. You're joining me for another session today. And today I am discussing something that is quite relevant in today's uh, current situation, which is life beyond lockdown. So for the past 2 months, we have all been in the similar situation, in the same boat, exactly the same boat. If you're in India, based in India, and that is that we've all been a part of a extensive lockdown, but we are slowly reaching a stage where we have to ensure that life returns to normal, whatever that means now, so that you know we can resume our other economic activities. We can resume some kind of normalcy for many reasons, which I am not going to get into in this particular discussion. But what I am looking at discussing today is more in terms of how do we prepare ourselves as we open up um, beyond the lockdown, beyond this time that we bought uh, for ourselves, specifically governments of each of our country and other countries, to buy some time to help gear up our healthcare system, right? But there's other things that we can do as individuals. Some healthcare system and how that's being geared up is beyond our control, right? But there are few things that we should be sort of a bit more aware of, and in terms of what we can do, just in terms of, so like the first thing is that how can we show up, because um, the world that we left before the lockdown started behind, the world that we left behind is going to be quite different from the world that we will be re-entering, right? Beyond May 31st, beyond June. And that's reality, right? That's what's going to be a reality for some time to come. Many things will change actually forever, but some of the other things will definitely change, at least for the next 3 months, for the next 6 months. We don't know for how long, right? Because there are a few things that I wanted to point out here. One is that while getting a vaccine, a vaccination is important. It can prevent a lot more deaths, etc., a lot of infections. Vaccine is not going to be a miracle cure, no matter what we can hope for. It has never been like that. Uh, because the thing is that not all vaccines are 100% effective, and it takes time. The more important thing I think is that we are running against time right now. It takes time. It takes 12 to 18 months, and even beyond now. The visibility is such that it will take probably 12 to 18 months to get an effective, vaccination to come in, which will be safe and at the same time, as I mentioned, 100% effective for it to work, right? It has to be both. So it's not really a miracle cure that many of us might be waiting for right now. So that's one. The thing is that also that a lot of us are actually scared. A lot of us scared of what is the world that I'm about to re-enter going to be like, right? We don't know how things, we some of it we know, of course, some of it we know in terms of social distancing, but a lot of other things that we've never really dealt with. It's quite something just quite new, and fear of the unknown is something that all of us deal with as human beings. That's how our brains are wired, right? To look for threats, to look for danger. So that's quite normal. So that's some of the thing that might be going on in your mind right now. That how do I deal with what's going to come ahead? And that may not be all. It might be in terms of even job security, right? It can be in terms of financial security and the health of your health, your family members' health. So many variables that are there, because the reality is this: we all have to learn to live with this virus, with COVID-19. It's not going to go away anywhere. It doesn't know that the lockdown ends on 31st of May, right? So 31st of May is a date that we have set for ourselves for our own reasons. That's fine. But the virus doesn't know that. So we have to gear up to learn to live with it, to learn to deal with it, right, in a constructive manner. So I have a few things for you today. So the first thing is that re-entering the world, right, after a gap of 1 month, 2 months, 2.5 months, etc., is tough in many ways, and some of you will struggle more than others. It's like re-entering a whole new world. You see news articles, you see videos, you see pictures of airports looking completely different, right? You see pictures of much less fortunate people than us, like migrant workers, etc. How they have struggled, and some have even died while reaching their homelands, right? So there's a whole lot of suffering which is going on. And so how do you re-enter the world in this kind of a scenario? So, and in fact, there is actually a term that has been coined, the re-enter panic syndrome. I mean, I've heard it for the first time today, but I think that describes the situation quite well. It may not be applicable to everyone, not everybody panics in there, but it is, I mean, at some point in time, and I think all of us are going through these feelings of, what's going to happen, right? So I think a couple of things can help in this first case of this real fear about re-entering is breathing, right? Using your breath, and you can use it in in terms of deactivating the stress response and activating the fire, the relaxation response. That itself helps to calm down your thoughts, calm down your racing mind, and help you make better decisions, bring more calm and ease in your life, even when the situation around you has not really changed. So the first thing I offer to is breathe. Okay, use your breath, use meditation or whatever, yoga, but use breathing to calm down, and it affects you physiologically actually when you breathe the right way. The other thing would be also to visualize, using the power of your imagination to visualize a future which is safe, right? Which is safe and which is whole, and where you know that you will survive and you will also learn to thrive. So visualization is a very powerful tool. I use it in my coaching sessions all the time, and it again has physiological effects in each and every cell of the body. So again, I'm not going to get into the specifics here of how it works exactly. You don't need to know that. But again, visualizing a future that you would like to see, that is very powerful. And probably I'll do a session on how you can create a vision board. I just did a session on that today. So the first thing, as I mentioned, is re-entering the world is to breathe and visualize. The second thing is again a very powerful tool. It sounds very simple, right? But again, as we discuss life after lockdown, the second thing is a tool that I have shared with my clients. And in fact, they all said that, this is something that they have really liked to implement. And it's called Yes and. Okay, so it's something that you would journal or write about, ideally. Thoughts, when you write them down, have a very different impact and a much more bigger impact than when you just think about them. Okay, so I want you to use this tool when you are doing a journal or some kind of self-reflection, so which is yes and how would you use it? Yes, that when you're dealing with a certain situation and when you're struggling with it. Yes, and is that you accept that you are struggling, and you still decide to go ahead with whatever needs to be done, which however you need to show up, right? So I'll give you my example. As some of you might know, I have recently launched a new podcast. It's called Nourish Heal Connect, and that has been something I love listening to podcasts. It has helped me tremendously grow as a person in many different ways. But I have been thinking of launching a podcast of my own for the last 1 year, and I've had a lot of ideas. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. My podcast is called Nourish Heal Connect, and it deals with a lot of guided meditation stories, inspiring stories. It's to inspire, it's to empower, it's to cultivate gratitude, etc. But the point I'm making is this: that I was actually quite scared, okay, about launching it when I was launching it. So one of the things that I did, which helped me to, I would not say overcome my fear, but helped me to make progress and launch it anyways, to use the power of yes and. So I chose to think of it this way. And yes, I am pretty scared to launch the podcast because I don't know how people will accept or they'll accept or etc. Yes, I'm scared to launch the podcast, and I'm going to do it anyway. And I did. So it's not always that you can always overcome your fear, or you can overcome, or that, you will be able to completely eradicate what you need to in order to move forward. But sometimes these change in the perspective can help to still make progress, to still take action. So using the power of yes and. So yes, I am disappointed by that person's behavior, and I am still choosing to let go or forgive that person anyway. That's how powerful it is. So that's yes and. So the first one was, while we're all re-entering the world, so it's life after life lockdown. The first one was breathe and visualize a very safe world, a world which is free of harm, and breathe, use your breath. And the second one is yes and the last one is induce or include a lot of play, laughter, and joy in your life. And one of the ways, many ways that you can do that is when the lockdown ends and if you're stuck at home, is to spending some time outdoors in whatever space that you have, right? Whether it's a bit of a garden, whether it's a park, of course, keeping the social distancing and all the norms in mind. Having said that, if you are lucky enough to be in an area or live in an area where there is some greenery, some patch of grass, making sure that you have, you go there and be a part of nature. Okay, it helps in multiple ways. There's a lot of research on this. Not only it's not in terms of vitamin D, etc. I think not all of us will be lacking, quite a bit because of the last 2 months that we have been stuck indoors. Um, but just that being outdoor in nature, because remember that we're all part of nature, right? And when we are artificially removed, as typically we live our lives, especially in cities, it has a huge detrimental effect to our health. Okay, so maybe using this opportunity to just changing the way you think about health, about your health. So spending out time outdoors is one beautiful way of getting more. And you can play outdoors, you can play with your child, you can just being and enjoying that moment, right? That itself, seeing the once again noticing the leaves of the trees, the wind rustling, the green grass, right? These are the moments that can bring you just small things which are always present, no matter how difficult the situation is, no matter what crisis is going on in the world right now. These things are always present. Maybe it's time that you paid attention to them. So again, and these are the ways that you actually bring joy in your life with a bit of intention. In fact, I covered this in my last podcast episode, which is about intentions, and in my last blog post. So these are the three things that I wanted to leave you with today as we enter a life beyond lockdown. So the first thing would be, again, breathe and visualize. So use your breath to guide you, to calm you, to bring more ease into your life, and visualize and use the power of imagination to visualize a world that is free from harm, and to help you to make better choices and not only survive but thrive in many ways and be more prepared for whatever is to come. Secondly, is using the powerful tools of journaling, and in specifically what I've shared with you today is yes and, the powerful tools of yes and. So one example that I mentioned is, yes, I'm very disappointed by that person's behavior, and I'm still choosing to let it go. It's an extremely powerful tool. Don't underestimate that. And the third one is to find ways to bring in laughter, play, and joy in your lives. It doesn't matter which way you do that. That really helps to manage and lower your stress levels, and that itself helps in so many different ways of boosting your immune system to deal with whatever is to come beyond this. And I invite you today, if you have joined me live, and you can do it even if you are seeing this later on, to take a few moments. And if you're okay with it, you can also close your eyes as we breathe together. So we can just practice a bit of breathing right now. And I want you to put your hand on your heart. And if you are comfortable, you can also choose to close your eyes or half close your eyes. And take a few breaths to ground yourself to this moment. And you can just repeat silently after me. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be free of pain and suffering. May I be healthy and whole. So let's just let that sink in. You can take 3 more breaths, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes. So I hope that felt good, and I hope that I was able to provide some ways, some steps that you can take to make your re-entry into the world a more peaceful one, make it more smooth. If you like this session, join me next Friday again at 5, another Friday at 5. And also, I actually take you through these kind of guided meditation and visualization sessions and stories in my podcast that I've mentioned. And you can sign up for that at aninditagunta.com/podcast so that you don't miss out on any episode. The last one actually was called Hand on Your Heart, and I take you through a lovely guided meditation on how do you actually bring a kind of peace and warmth into your body, just by, and which is something that you can do for yourself. You don't need anybody's help in that. You can use your own hands to warm your heart. So once again, you can choose to subscribe to my weekly podcast at aninditagunta.com/podcast, and it's called Nourish Heal Connect, and I publish a new podcast episode every Tuesday. So leave your comments below if you like this. Sadika, I can see that you are here. You can drop in a comment, maybe share what you liked about today's session, anything. You can share if you want to see a particular topic for the next week. Anybody else? Would love to hear from you. And that's all for now, and I'll see you next Friday.